28th of February. It goes without a saying that 28th of February incident, just like 27th of May, 12th of September coups, is an incident, is an attempt to overturn the will of the people. It was an attempt of coup. It targeted a government that was voted into office. A legitimate government was targeted by certain quarters of the um, civil society, media outlets, as well as private sector entities, and they were made to resign. And 28th of February wreaked havoc in Turkey. It had many detrimental effects from politics to social affairs. And also, private entities took sides, and many companies that worked hard for the Turkish economy actually proved detrimental for the Turkish economy. And there was a lot of corruption after this incident. Billions of lira was funneled by dark forces, and the Turkish economy suffered as a result gravely. And regarding those who committed a constitutional crime, nothing was done, and the judiciary was also within their control, and this shook the foundations of trust in Turkish judiciary. Thousands of people, tens of thousands of people were targeted because of their political convictions, and they were subjected to a lack of justice and oppression, from secondary schools to universities, from Quran recital schools to dormitories, to foundations, and even hides of animals sacrificed at the Eid al-Adha were targeted. And students were targeted because of the way they dressed, and many people were denied their diplomas, and they were taken down the stage upon which they were supposed to receive their diplomas, and mothers could not participate in the graduation ceremony of their daughters, and grandmothers were denied chemotherapy treatment because of their headscarves. And these are only some of the atrocities that people went through. Like I said previously, girls who wore the headscarf were made to take them off in specially designated rooms at universities. And certain fascists, certain university administrators that did this then published a declaration last week, and now they're talking about freedoms and democracy, and this is nothing short of dark humor. We are never going to forgive what they did, and never ever will we forgive them. Despite all the oppression, people took ownership of their will, and of course these people will not be, and their bravery will not be forgotten either. Let us remember the heinous columns that certain so-called writers published, and let us remember the newspaper headlines. Their infamy will never be eradicated. 27th of May, 12th of September, coup plotters, coup implementers failed, and they were judged by the Turkish nation, and the perpetrators of 28th of February will live in infamy forevermore. Now, in less than 5 years, this mentality was voted down, and a new era was heralded in Turkey in 2002. Tutelage junta became no more, and that door was shut, never to be opened again. Again, we witnessed incidents such as the e-memorandum, Gezi incidents, and 17th and 25th of December attempt, and they all targeted the will of the nation, and all of these plans were luckily frustrated. And as for the 15th of July coup attempt, once again the Turkish nation made history by claiming its freedoms. Those who target the faith of the nation, those who are in treason when it comes to their nation, will always face their bitter end in the future, just like they were faced with it in the past, because our nation is determined to defend its well-being. New coup attempts, new 28th of February incidents will never be possible in Turkey ever again. Obviously, we do not want Turkey to know any such shame in the future. So far, we have done whatever it takes, and we will bequeath this heritage to generations that come after us. Honorable members of our nation, Turkey deserves the highest level of democracy and development in the last 18 years. We took many decisive steps to accomplish this, and many anti-democratic practices were done away with that cast a shadow on the will of the nation. We sided with the nation, and we frustrated the efforts of coup implementers and coup plotters. We strengthened civilian politics, and we caused bureaucratic oligarchy to regress. We added to rights and liberties and freedoms, and we helped national will prevail in Turkey. After 15th of July, we took many substantial steps, and these steps are nothing short of a revolution. Under the auspices of the People's Alliance, we adopted the executive presidential system, and this was the largest administrative reform in the history of our republic, and we accomplished this with the backing of the nation. Now, we also created a series of reforms, and in the parliament we passed many reforms, and as the presidency also we took many steps. Of course, we always want to add to these achievements. We continue to work tirelessly to achieve this. Tomorrow, we are going to share our Human Rights Action Plan with the public. Within this plan, there are 9 chapters, and hundreds of items are involved within this package. And when it comes to Human Rights Action Plan, we actually realized that many of the problems that we face in Turkey stem from the fact that the coup constitution is still in effect in Turkey. We proposed a new constitution to be prepared in Turkey, and this action plan also will be crowned by this, we believe. We genuinely believe that the biggest responsibility for us politicians is to get rid of the shackles imposed on Turkey by the constitution that was enacted after the coup. Under the auspices of People's Alliance, we reached a consensus, and we rolled up our sleeves to prepare a new and a civilian constitution that would be built on contributions of everyone, all segments of the society. And actually, repeatedly, we put this item on the agenda of Turkey in the last decade, but unfortunately, we have not been able to realize this dream, and inshallah, we believe that this time around we are going to accomplish this once and for all. And we initiated our preparatory processes. We should get rid of our prejudices and our tunnel vision, ideological tunnel vision, because if we do that, history will judge us bitterly. We believe that the Turkish democracy has the maturity to draft a constitution from scratch. This is a call for all, especially different segments of the society who suffered grievances because of coups, are quite enthused by this effort. We call out to all the political parties to join us, to come and contribute to the drafting of a new and civilian constitution in a constructive manner. Now, let us join forces and let us get rid of these constitutions that were enacted after coups, let us prepare the most encompassing constitution in the history of the Republic. Come, let us join forces and crown the centenary of the Republic with a civilian constitution. E- Even if no one joins our ranks as the People's Alliance, we're going to draft this constitution and present it to the vote of the public. Honorable members of our nation, global economy is going through turbulent times. Last year, global income went down by 3.5%, and global trade went down, shrank by 9%. And never ever have we experienced this before. Something that caused so many people losing their jobs, and we are seeing that level of development around different nations is changing rapidly. More than 90 million people went down the poverty line, and there are many countries, more than 100 countries, who do not have access to vaccination still. And as Turkey, despite these challenges, thanks to our planned and decisive policies as well as flexible policies, we have achieved great success, and we continue to manage this process efficiently. 1.8% is the 2020 growth rate for Turkey, and this success is a testament to our accomplishments in the last year. As Turkey grows, the UK actually shrank by 9%, India 8%, Germany 4.9%, Japan 4.8%, and the US shrank by 3.5%. These economies shrank considerably, and we made a great start for 2021 in terms of export. In February, compared to the last year, we achieved 16 billion US dollars, actually surpassed that threshold. So as of the first 2 months of this year, our foreign trade deficit went down by 15%, and we reached 82% in terms of import-export ratio. And developments indicate that exports will increase further in the next couple of months. Of course, all of these are accomplishments that are not to be neglected, and that would pose a model for other nations. But we do not make do with these accomplishments. We want to make sure that economic growth trickles down to society, and that growth also gives way to employment and creates new jobs. Only then can we talk about a sustainable growth. And this is how we're going to approach 2021. Our goal is to make sure that we touch the lives of each and every citizen, increase their welfare thanks to our sustainable growth policies, and strengthen our economy in the mid to long term. But of course, price stability is the key to this, and for that to happen, we need to increase our productivity, and we need to increase our competitive edge. And efficiency is an important factor here. For an economy to succeed, it needs robust foundations, obviously, and it also has got to be resilient. Last week, in domestic markets, because of developments abroad, we experienced some fluctuations. In the US and in many other developed nations, there was an increase in their bonds, and many developing nations were affected because of this. Such global fluctuations always happen. These things will always happen, but for us, what is important is to be resilient and to be robust against these, and to make sure that our domestic economy functions properly. Now, when it comes to inflation and interest rates and FX rates, we need to control all of these. We need to stick to our growth, and we need to create jobs as Turkey, and then we would be able to weather all of these storms. But of course, stability and price stability is key. And for that, like I said, we need to be more productive, and we need to fight against current account deficit, and we need to care about our fiscal discipline. Esteemed members of our nation, I mentioned the Human Rights Action Plan previously, and concurrently in the field of economy, we are also going to launch some economic reforms. Now, as we identified our priorities, our colleagues went down to the field and got together with all the stakeholders, and they listened to all the demands that were voiced by the members of the public. We will adopt a solution based approach, and we came up with a list of priorities. And of course, some people will not like these moves and will not support these endeavors. And I say this always. We are not short distance sprinters. We run a marathon. We do not shy away from any struggle, and at every turn we push ourselves. We flex our muscles to take things to the next step. And with this principle, we prepared a series of reforms which we will announce next week, and they will be implemented with great determination. And there will be many more reforms in the future. Now, we are in the third month of 2021, and hopefully this year will be the year where we will win our fight against the pandemic and add to our economic strength. And Turkey will be one of the rising stars of the world in the post-pandemic period. Thanks to the steps that we take, we will mitigate the risks, and we are also going to seize the opportunities that await us in the best possible way. Now, economic reform agenda. Our agenda is based on macroeconomic stability and structural reforms, structural policies. Within the framework of macroeconomic stability, fight against inflation, financial sector, public financing, and fight against current account deficit will be our priority areas. And on the structural reform side, we are going to strengthen our institutions to make sure that we incentivize more investments, and that we also focus on our competition policies. Fiscal discipline is of key importance today, just like it always was. It is a sine qua non for us. On the income and spending side, we have taken certain precautions, and 2021 budget deficit target has been reduced to 3.5% from 4%. And compared to many nations, Turkey is faring quite well in this regard. The EU average is around 90%, that's the indebtedness. In Greece, that's 200%. In Italy, that is 154%. In France, 117%. In the UK, 101%, whereas in Turkey, that is merely 42%. That is the indebtedness ratio. This is what Turkey has accomplished. This is what fiscal discipline is all about. In our reform package, thanks to our reform package, we are going to strengthen this even further thanks to new public policies. In public spending, we are going to eradicate wastefulness, and we are going to monitor spending with great attention and with great care from our ministries. We will actually ask them to not overspend their budgets, and to actually save as much as possible from the budget allocated to them. And when it comes to tenders, public tenders, we are going to move towards a new system whereby public entities will be restructured if needs be, so that they can become more competitive and more efficient. In our fight against inflation, the backbone, like I said, is the price stability, and to achieve that, we are devising lasting policies. We also want to increase financial inclusiveness, and to that end, we are also going to implement new policies. As for current account deficit, we will continue this fight in production. We want to encourage structural reforms, we are also going to strengthen our institutions and hopefully achieve the stability of our reforms. So all of these chapters that I mentioned, all the details actually will be shared with the nation come next week. And we believe that our nation deserves the best of everything. And we work tirelessly, we work day and night to achieve this. Now, honorable members of our nation, as for the coronavirus pandemic, in addition to being a public health crisis, this also caused an increase in social diseases in the West. When we look at Europe, almost on a daily basis, we see fascist and xenophobic and racist attacks on our citizens, and under the guise of protest, the holy book of Quran is being burned, and our severed heads of pigs are left in front of our temples, and workplaces of Muslims are being targeted, and all of this has been commonplace. European politicians shy away from facing up to this fact, but statistics reveal the severity of the threats. Now, last year, compared to previous years, hate crimes doubled in number. And in Europe, when you look at the top three nations where the highest number of Turkish citizens live, there have been more than 3,000 attacks on them. In 2020, in Germany, 400 Turkish citizens were targeted, and more than 900 attacks actually took place. And again, last year, despite the restrictions imposed by the pandemic, mosques and mosque associations were targeted. 121 incidents took place. But this is just the tip of the iceberg, we believe, because hate crimes, only 5% of hate crimes get reported. Attacks that were not reported actually are at least 4 or 5-fold compared to what was reported. When we look at what was reported, we see that authorities are unfortunately pursuing perpetrators. They exhibit pressure on victims. Cultural racism is rampant in countries such as France, in many other European nations. We see that this has become an institutionalized form of racism. Until 10 years ago, certain ideas that looked marginal, that seemed marginal, have become the discourse of mainstream parties in Europe. In the last couple of years, the theme of elections in Europe is xenophobia, or hate against Muslims or immigrants, or hate against Turkey, animosity against Turkey, and animosity against myself. Western politicians, to obfuscate their own lack of skills, blame Muslims, blame the immigrants, and they try to cover social ills in their countries. In the last couple of weeks, on a French TV channel, the French Minister of Interior sat down with the leader of a fascist party, and they competed against each other when it comes to Islamophobia, and that was shameful. And similar discussions are taking place in other European nations as well. And similarly, in the Netherlands, we see this happening, and an atmosphere of hate that reminds us of the years that preceded the Second World War is sadly present there. In Solingen, our citizens were massacred heinously, and as such, we are terribly upset by this picture. Now, Western institutions turn a blind eye to Islamophobia, and that exacerbates our worries. Western media outlets portray racists as psychologically unwell people, and as such, these crimes are belittled, and the road is paved for more racism. NSU organization committed many murders, and these were called these were belittled in the press. This racist organization killed a number of citizens, and the perpetrators were not held to account. And similarly, last year on the 19th of February, in Hanover, in Germany, 9 people were massacred, 4 of which were Turkish, and again, the perpetrators' connections were obliterated. Um, in such When we talk about such incidents, actually we talk about opportunities to tackle the racism in the society, but sadly that was not done. Western nations were quite sensitive against Daesh, but they do not show the same sensitivity when it comes to neo-Nazi organizations. Taking this opportunity, I would like to commemorate all our citizens who we lost to racist violence, and offer my condolences to their families. Now, European countries do not take this threat seriously, but as Turkey, we believe that we need to assume a more active role. Our Ministry of Foreign Affairs and our Directorate of Turkish nationals living abroad will keep a close eye on these incidents and assume more responsibility. Inshallah, no citizen of ours will suffer racism in Europe, and they will never ever be alone. Honorable members of the nation, the coronavirus pandemic hit Turkey almost a year ago, and we took some precautions. Right after that, on the 18th of March 2020, our scientists got together, as well as representatives of the private sector. We had a meeting, and we took a series of decisions, and a wide range of decisions, and we kept an eye on the progress, and we increased and decreased the level of restrictiveness as a result. Throughout the course of the pandemic, many people were affected by the decisions that we took. That's why we prepared additional support packages, aid packages for them. Of course, despite all, because of restrictions, some people lost their income and some people's businesses suffered, and we keep a close eye on all of these developments, and we tried many different means to support them as much as we could, and we still continue to do that. In certain countries, in the healthcare system, due to economic problems as well, we saw a lot of chaotic scenes, but we did not let that happen in Turkey, both in the world and in Turkey. When we look at the results of the last year, here's what we are confronted with. Turkey, both in terms of healthcare services and preventive measures and economic support, has become a success story and is being appreciated by all across the world. Our hospitals' service capacity and their immunization efforts, economic support, and continuation of production are some of the areas where we achieved success and where we have become a role model to other nations across the globe. 9 million people have been immunized thus far, and that's more than 10% of the overall population, and as such, Turkey ranks within the top 5 nations in the world. Now, no citizen is left behind when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to masks, and also we mobilized our means to help all our citizens. Some people have been asking about the fluctuations in the central bank, and actually these fluctuations reveal the difficulty of the struggle that we have been engaged in the last year. Every penny that is spent is accounted for, and every penny that is spent here in Turkey was spent for the welfare of all our citizens. And depending on the progress of the pandemic, we will continue to support all our citizens. Now, in the world and in Europe, when you look at the developments, we will keep a close eye on the developments, and we are renewing our strategies in our fight against the pandemic constantly. And as of today, as was promised, a new controlled normalization process will begin as of today. Controlled normalization steps. Before we get to these steps, let me underscore a few important points. Now, the relaxation or making more strict of the measures depend on the progress of the pandemic. We cannot normalize if the pandemic still wreaks havoc. Now, when it comes to geography, when it comes to population, Turkey is a large country. That's why our steps must be incremental. Now, our Ministry of Health, our MOH, and their affiliated scientific council looked at case numbers per 100,000 citizens, and based on these criteria, our cities have been classified, and we have 81 provinces: low risk, blue, mid risk, yellow, high risk, orange, and very high risk, red. These will be the designations, and we will be acting based on these designations. Every week, these colors will be identified and will be announced, and every 2 weeks, our normalization steps will be revamped. And under the auspices of our governorships, public health authorities will look at their own practices and make new decisions as and when the need arises. Now, relaxation of the rules or making them stricter will be done on a case-by-case basis based on the situation in a given province. Now, our citizens will be expected to adhere great importance to wearing of masks and practicing social distancing. The more we adhere to these rules, the better our provinces, our cities will normalize. If we don't do that, that is to say, if there is an uptick in the pandemic, then restrictions will have to be imposed again. To put it in other words, every city, every province will identify or determine themselves the severity of restrictions. And we had a cabinet meeting today, and we discussed normalization steps and how these steps must be taken. And we had the opportunity to discuss this in a detailed fashion. Now, weekend restrictions in low and mid risk cities will be done away with. In high and very high risk cities, this curfew will continue on Sundays. Now, all across the nation, we had a 9 p.m. between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. restriction, and that restriction will continue. The schools all across Turkey, in preschools and primary schools, in grades 8 and 12, education will commence. In low and mid-risk cities, middle schools and high schools will also commence education. In high and very high-risk cities, only high school examinations will be held. As for restaurants, cafes and patisserie shops, coffee shops and tea shops, save for very high risk cities, they will operate between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. At 50% capacity all across Turkey. Football fields, swimming pools, and similar sport facilities in low and mid-risk cities will operate between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. Now, all across Turkey, public working hours will be reverted back to normal, and in case of need, governors' offices will announce new measures. Now, for senior citizens above the age of 65 and those above the age of 20. In low and mid-risk cities, this restriction will be done away with. In high-risk and very high-risk cities, this curfew will be maintained. Wedding ceremonies in low and mid-risk cities will be limited to 100 people. In high and very high-risk cities will be limited to 50 people and will not surpass 1 hour in terms of duration. Civil society organizations, professional bodies, cooperatives, and similar institutions, their general assemblies in low, mid, and high-risk cities, the participation will be limited to 300 people. That will be allowed. And as to other practices, like I said previously, governors will play a key role. Public health authorities under the auspices of governors' offices will be in charge. Our objective is to make sure that we complete this control normalization process all across the nation. Of course, inspections will be held in a strict fashion, in a decisive fashion, to make sure that rules are adhered to. During the pandemic, Turkey has been a great role model, and in terms of relaxation of restrictions and inshallah doing away with all of the restrictions will achieve the same level of success. I truly believe that all these decisions hopefully will be auspicious for our country and for our nation, and I greet you all with my deepest regards. Thank you very much indeed.